the pin from the hammer retaining pin, the pin that goes through that little hole over there that holds in the hammer pin, that pin makes the perfect slave pin to get the trigger return spring in. So the trigger return spring goes in with the short leg going down into that between the trigger and the nose of this trigger bow, and the long leg facing forward, and you get that in there, and then you can insert that pin in the hole as a slave pin, and now that's assembled. Now we can drop it into the frame, and get it in to its position there, and then you got to push down on it, and the long leg needs to go into that little groove, and you got to push forward, line up the hole, and get that pin through. And then the new pin is a reusable pin, and it's got a recessed area in the middle that the return spring goes into that little recess and then holds it in. Okay, got the slave pin out with a punch. Now push the punch out with the floating trigger pin. Now the hammer's good to go back in. You just slide it down. The hammer pin goes in from left to right. Push it home, and that little pin that we used as the slave pin earlier, that goes into that little hole over there. Just this pin is the same diameter as the hammer pins, and I have seen a friend of mine brought one in, he couldn't get it back together, and the hammer pins are just a fraction longer than this, and if you put that in there, the Sear cage will not be able to go in. So you got to be sure that you got the correct pin. There you go, and then it stops that pin from backing out. Okay, let's see if I can get this done around the camera. It is a finicky job to start off with. So I don't have a dedicated slave pin for this, so I'm going to be using this pin as a slave pin, and a drill bit as a transfer pin, and the original pin as as part of the assembly pin. So the way this goes in is, let me take it all apart again. So this is the decocking lever. That's the decocking lever, and it goes in from the top with that shiny bit to the to the top, and just get it captured. Okay, so that's in there. Got the decocking lever in, like that. Then the sear goes in, and it sits with that leg forward, so you got to come in from the bottom and get the sear around the decocking lever, and my fingers are on the way. So got that captured. So there's the decocking lever is in position where it's supposed to be, and the sear is where it's supposed to be. Now we got that dinky little spring, and we're going to come back on our pin and get that spring in, and it is minute. Okay, that's in. Push them on my slave pin through with this pin. And get my spring onto next. We got that lever. That's what works the it pushes up on the okay, so let's take the sear out. Drop the sear out the bottom, completely out the way. We put that lever on. There you go. Got the lever in, but we need to get that spring to ride on that ledge. There you go. Got that spring on the ledge. So that's spring loaded. I'm going to go back on that pin. I'll get it level with that lever. And now get the sear back in. Okay, there you go. So I got the sear in. I'm going to keep that, push that spring through to there. And get this back there. So now I got a gap for the sear spring. The sear spring drops in from the top. There you go. Got the sear spring in. That means I should have a spring loaded Sear, and which I do. Now I've got to get the decocking lever spring in, and it sits in that orientation, and it goes in from the bottom through. And I got to hook that over. I got it in. I got to hook that spring over that lever so that it keeps the spring pressure on that lever. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my slave pin through and get this pin out the way so that I get it all captured. There you go. So that's complete. I've got spring pressure on that little lever. I got spring on my sear. I just need to get that leg of that spring needs to sit on top of that. So, need to get that there, and then take a pick. I got it on. The spring comes in from the bottom, and then it's got a 90-degree hook there, and you got to hook that and get it around that part of the decocking lever. I got the decocker in there, the outside decocking lever, so I got that spring loaded. You push down on that, it will push down that lever until it trips the sear. The sear's over there, you'll see that being pulled down or being pulled up, and then allows the hammer to fall on the bottom end. So remember, the hammer's hooked in there, and as soon as you get there, it takes it, pulls that away from the hammer. The sear pin has got a slightly more rounded edge on the one side than the other side. Well, that's how it appears to me anyway. And that side goes in better if I put it in that way. So with that in there, we will put the get the sear cage back in position. And then I'm going to use a drill bit. It's 101 thou. And use a drill bit, and it goes through that hole. Use the drill bit to push out my slave pin in one motion. All the way through. And there's my slave pin out. So my drill bit's become the slave pin now. And just check that everything is still operational. Yep. So now I can push the drill bit out with the real pin. Important bit is you can't back off. Once you start going, you should go all the way through. I believe you can buy a slave pin from, I think, Cajun Gunworks. I just don't have one. Put a little washer back. There you go. Little washer's back, and that stops it pin from backing out. For the decocking lever, that should just go straight in. And then we just need to press down on the decocking lever to get it in there. And it should be captured. There you go. Hammer spring. I'm going to push this in on the side of the table. I just don't have leverage. There you go. So, trigger works. Decocker. Okay, now for the slide. Got a dab of grease there to keep that spring in. There you go. Got that in. Now we got to get the roll pin to retain all of that in. I like to put the roll pin in like that with the open side to the top. That just gives a solid surface there for the firing pin to hit on. To get this together, what I like to do is I put the barrel in, put the recoil spring in, put it back on the gun, line up the marks, put the slide stop in, let the hammer down, and now the hammer is holding the firing pin in for me. Now I can just get that in there. There you go, all done. There you go, guys. Hope you found that interesting and that it helps somebody out there. Certainly not a job for the faint-hearted. Stay safe. We talk again. Cheers.